And welcome back to the No Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing in the absence of Audrey Ember. We certainly won't be talking about her while she's not here. So, in this case, it is your duo of host. So, joining me tonight will be Romina with the good hair. And of course, your Dark Lord of the Interwebs here to entertain and slay you, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, and join us Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ish. Welcome back to the show.
You know, I think that we should give ourselves some credit because tonight we actually were here before time. Not only were we weren't on time, we were early.
Facts.
But we ran into some technical difficulties.
Yeah, that is a thing that happened.
For the course.
That is a thing that happened.
So when I disappeared, Roberto, I actually turned off my computer completely. Because the fans were just so... Now it's fine. I don't hear anything. So I have no idea what upset my computer. Because it was going. Like, it was going off.
Are you using Chrome?
No. I mean, all I had open was Firefox and TextEdit. That's all I had open.
Interesting. By the way, Gabe, how's our audio? See Gabe in the audience.
Hey.
Just waving at us.
And we're waving back at him.
Yeah, something only the live viewers get to enjoy. The audio audience doesn't necessarily get to.
Hashtag FOMO.
Hashtag FOMO. Oh, staticky. Still staticky? Really?
Mark, you're supposed to lie to us. How dare you?
Like, how staticky? Like, how bad is it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're missing
Okay,
we're missing Audrey Ember. Audrey Ember is traveling at the moment, and so she is missing.
VIP. She's living a life that only Roberto and I can dream about.
Living that best life. California dream.
Yeah.
Tonight's episode, the interesting thing about tonight's episode. And it's funny because this is the episode she would have enjoyed. Audrey would have loved this.
Maybe we'll do a two-parter and have her come in and chime in with her opinions.
Gabe is saying it's pretty bad, actually, that the static is pretty bad.
Sounds great to me, though. Let me see. I'm going to hop on the live right now.
Gabe, is the static really bad from me, Romina, or both?
Oh, both. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, hop on the live, Roberto.
Hang on.
Sorry, guys. I don't think that it's us, though. It might be a StreamYard thing.
I don't know, because
why would both of us?
Why would it be both of us if it's okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm usually reluctant to blame the tool, but if it's both of us, I can't
I just don't understand if it was your hardware, if there was some cable that you had messed up, then it would be on your end. But I'm hearing it on both, I think.
Yeah, because again, routing it through hang on. Hang on 1 second.
Oh, now I see. Okay, I'm hearing now, and it's just me. Roberto sounds fine. Okay, so then now I'm the problem. Oh no. See, but Roberto can hear me fine though. Roberto's on right now. He's got. All right, guys. What happens if I
What happens if I do this? Does this fix it? I guess that kind of fixes it, huh? It sounds better when I'm listening to it on the live now. This is a separate microphone. I'm not using my microphone. Huh. Okay. So maybe it's just some connection that I have going on here.
Wait, is it fixed?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you do something?
I think the culprit might be my mic.
Really?
I'm gonna plug it in another.
We're both good. We're both good here?
Yeah.
Is that what they're telling us?
That is what they are. That is what they claim.
Huh. How long have you had that? You've had that for like a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, but I think it's fine. Like, I don't think it's broken. It might just be some kind of connection or something. I mean, remember, I just got this computer back from being repaired.
That's fair.
So
It's not to say that your input
Yeah.
jacks are perfect or nothing like that.
I wonder what happens. Let me see.
All right, so apparently,
I just switched my mic. Let's see if it fixes it. It sounds good on my end.
switched my mic.
Yep, sounds good when I tested it. So yeah.
So I just put it in a separate port. I think that I think this has happened before in like video chats, where there's a buzz that comes out.
Right now, there's a little bit of it now.
Because of the port that's next to the audio jack. Like when I plug something in there, but I don't know. If it's fine now, then we'll just.
Well, now I'm getting this little bit of it. Yeah,
man.
they're hearing
All right,
it,
guys.
Yeah.
I'll switch over here to
This microphone. It should be
that's
this
good.
one over here.
Yeah, that's better. Minus you doing that, it's better.
What? You don't like it when I whisper into that microphone?
No, I don't need the ASMR experience. Actually, this is a perfect pivot into the topic of what to do when you're stuck. Like, we just powered through. We just literally showed you what to do when you're stuck. You keep going.
Yeah, I mean, well, they didn't see us crying backstage in the green room, but
I'm not crying. You're crying. That.
Oh man, hold on. I got the wheels all over my Snuggie. All right, guys. I'm all right. I'm not a mess or anything tonight.
Are you sure?
wait, why do we still have Viper up here? There we go. All right, guys. Thanks for joining and thanks for sticking through with all of that, because that's annoying. Because I for sure, if I had hopped onto a live stream like that, I would have just pieced out.
We're gonna have to have Audrey edit that part like out of the audio because it's just no good for the audio listeners.
Whoops.
So I'm gonna literally redo an intro.
All right, I'm good with that.
Like so that we can like kind of like cut it right here for the audio people.
Perfect.
Welcome to the No Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And tonight it is a twofer because we are down one host. We are missing one Audrey Burn It All Down Ember tonight. So you will only have your duo of hosts, starting with Romina with the good hair but not the good mic. And, of course, your dark lord of the interwebs with all the shade, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Something Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like and subscribe.
Wow, the shade is real.
The shade is real. Yeah.
I mean, I like my little mic, and up until now, I haven't had any problems. It might be something because of, who knows,
I'm all for using and like doing the best you can with what you have. I'm all for that until what you have is an unserviceable result.
Hey man, I don't know, but it works like when I'm, to record stuff.
Yeah.
On its own, like not USB.
When you're not having to hook it up and add another device into the variable.
Right. Yeah. And according to Apple, like they basically gave me like a new machine, like the inside, because the logic board, they had to replace it.
That Apple Care though.
Oh yeah. It was, I did not have any stress at all, except for the fact that I didn't have a laptop for 30 minutes while I was buying the M1. Yeah. And outside of that, because everything's on the cloud, because I had everything backed up and I have all the systems that we talked about, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I swear I did not sweat it at all. My mom was freaking out more than I was. She was like, what are you going to do? What's going to happen? Because she's not aware of the fact that, I got Dropbox and all this stuff set up. And so
those redundant systems are the key to all of it. That's where it's right now I'm sweating a lot less because I just finished doing a bunch of memory card dumps to my external Lacy drive. And now This weekend we're going to be doing the backups to the NAS, and then we'll start the beginnings of the uploads to the unlimited Dropbox. So like I won't have to worry about anything, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then there's Backblaze running in the background. So it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah. You know, the project that I was talking about,
yeah.
like a few days ago, and I was freaking out, and you called me to tell me about all the, you know, you're like, oh, are they in the cloud and whatever? Guess what, Roberto? They only have one copy of the thing in the wild, and I had it.
You can't be doing that, y'all. If it don't exist in 3 places, it don't exist.
Yeah.
Y'all can't be doing this. Oh, it only exists on one thing. You know what? I'm so reluctant to wipe memory cards, Romina, that like I went and I literally ordered while I was in the process of doing all this because it's like next day delivery. I ordered a 4-pack of Lexar memory cards and a really expensive pro grade, 2 expensive pro grade SD cards, because while I was in the process of doing like these things, I was like, I'm literally, at least as far as high capacity, I'm out of high capacity memory cards like that. Because I haven't been clearing cards because I'm like, until this thing is on 3 places, I ain't doing jack like with this footage, like, you know, especially since I had embargo stuff. I had like, you know, I had to get out that video about the Sony ZV-E10 and I had that embargo. I had some other stuff going on and I was like, I had some other once in a lifetime footage and I'm like, I cannot lose this shit. Like I cannot. So I'm like, I ain't wiping these cards for jack until I know it's in 3 places. So I literally ordered, I spent a crap ton of money and I bought new cards, had them delivered next day. Thank God for Amazon.
Yeah.
Just so I wouldn't have anxiety about shooting anything while I'm like moving stuff off cards.
No, that's a good rule of thumb. Speaking of having stuff in different places, where's everybody from who's in the chat? Everybody should tell us where you're at right now.
Where you at? Where you at?
Where you at? Where you at? But without disclosing any personal information that might dox you.
Just the nearest large, like, just
whatever
like,
you're comfortable sharing.
Like, just the state or whatever, it's fine.
State of mind. Because I think we all know where I'm at right now.
Where are you at right now?
I'm trying to hold everything together. But it's good.
Because of this project thing.
Yeah, I mean, because I have a lot going on. And I definitely, like, I don't need to, but I did it, A, because it was a cool project and I wanted to just be able to say I was a part of it.
Yeah.
And then B, because, you know, we got to get that money.
Yeah, facts.
But that's basically it. I really didn't really need it, you know? But yeah, after this project, I'm going to take a couple weeks break. I've already made that promise to not take on extra. Yeah. I mean, outside of like the main stuff that I'm doing with Hago, I'm not going to do anything outside of that. Yeah. I'm going to work on my stuff. I'm actually going to focus on, I guess I'll tell you about it later, but I'm going to take your advice on something that you told me like about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But
I will cut you a commission if it goes well.
That my payment will be knowing that you're doing well.
Aw, that's so nice. And here I am holding resentment over that one domain name that you stole from me many moons ago.
Christ, you're not gonna let it go. He's not gonna let it go. Really not gonna let it go. Christ.
Yeah. Speaking of letting things go or not letting things go, what is tonight's topic? We're talking about how to start something if you're stuck.
Yeah. So
or when you're stuck.
It occurred to me that like a lot of people get in their own head a lot about like so many things that just keep them from moving forward on doing anything at all when it potentially comes to like a project or even starting something, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube channel. It's like the hardest thing in the world for them is they literally just can't do anything at all is what it, you know, and again, that's that's a rough place to be in mentally and like emotionally. That like I'm like, okay, I can't even, like, and they find procrastination, like any reason just not to do the thing. Because it's not going to be perfect. That's like usually a lot of it is, because it's not going to be perfect, I won't start at all. And then other reasons people get stuck is they convince themselves that they need a resource that they don't currently have, which is definitely a big one. Yeah. And so, so I was thinking about that a lot because I know that that's something that a lot of people, probably even a lot of people in our audience go through. And so that was on my mind. When you actually literally, what's on my mind? It was that.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's also something that I'm very closely related to because I'm working on my book. And so I've actually done a lot of research on this topic.
Yeah, I've been going through it on my book, like the beginnings of my book too. Like my thing with my book is I have too many books in me that I could write.
Well, this is one that it's got 10 chapters and I've got 8 outlined. So I just need to finish 2 more. But one of the chapters is about that, talking about waiting for perfection to happen. Or rather, believing that you can attain perfection
in the first place.
From the get-go, right? It is a fascinating topic, and I've been doing research on this for a while now. I started writing in 2016, and then I took a break for like a year and a half. And then I really started getting back into it last year. And it is interesting, like the kind of things that people do say stop them from starting something. Mars says, don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Yes, absolutely. But, a lot of people do that. I mean, I was just talking to, in Twitter, a YouTube friend who was like, I know that y'all say, make those 100 crappy videos, whatever, but it's like, hey, this homeboy over here is doing it like he's, 10, 12 videos in, and this stuff is quality. Some of this is better than people would. I'm like, yeah, but like, but you're falling for the same thing that I keep saying is you're looking at other people instead of doing you. It's like, of like, okay, it's cool that dude can like start as a beginner and is wildly talented. So what? The rest of us aren't supposed to do anything until until our stuff looks like that, because that's the thing people get into their head about. They get into their head because they look at somebody, and the thing is, we only think that person is just starting out. Because again, what if this is another Peter McKinnon? What if this is like somebody who, they just started on YouTube, but they had a 5 or 10 year career to where, of course, they'd be starting out with high quality content.
Right.
What about the people who don't have that? How are they supposed to feel? And it's because, again, they're looking at somebody and saying, I wish my beginning looked like that. Well, it doesn't. So what? My beginning didn't look like that, and I have 500,000 subscribers. Mr. Beast's beginning certainly didn't look like that, and he has 50 million plus, 60 million plus. Marquez didn't have that. PewDiePie did. Felix didn't have that. So, like, you have all these massively successful people who had very, very humble, very, very humble, very like bad, like not great content, myself included at the beginning. So like, and they have success. So why are we sitting here letting people and insisting people look at one-off unicorns? Most people start off bad. Stop holding up to us 30 examples you can find of people who start off great, like stop it, because like that's not helpful. That's not inspiring. That's not helpful. That, okay, great. Now I'm going to compare my beginning to people who maybe were film students or had the disposable income to start with good gear. Like, when I'd rather show people that the most successful people started off scrubs like them. Instead of the fact that today, with newer technology and all this stuff, that you have a handful of people that are starting off with really dope, awesome stuff. It's like, You don't even know that it's not their third time trying to do YouTube. You don't know that.
Mm-hmm. Right. They don't see the work that led up to that point.
Yeah. Scotty from Strange Parts took like 8 months to make one video, and his first YouTube video was a viral video, and he likes doing that stuff. Right. Scotty from Strange Parts also, pre-COVID, this is back in the day, pre-COVID, he also had access to factories in China. Nobody has that on YouTube. So yeah, you can make a viral video if you have access no one else in the world has to do an idea that nobody had the resources to make an iPhone from scratch. Scotty did. That's why he could make that video. And then the drilling a headphone jack into the iPhone. He had the brains and the smarts for that, sure, and the creativity for the idea, but he also had the money to be able to go through like $5,000 worth of iPhones to practice. Most people don't have that disposable income, so there's no point in looking at the success of a viral person that has resources you don't. Janelle, the van life girl, she was modest and humble, but she was also a level of frugal that people would think is insane. And people also would think living out of your van as a single woman in LA is insane. That's why it's interesting. But that also is a $30,000 upfront investment. If you can't do that, why are you worried about how you start if it doesn't look like that? And you should just start with what you have and not worry about the fact that what other people had to start with is so much more than yours, because they're not putting it in that perspective. People are thinking that people are making the mistake, in my opinion, Marina, at least when it comes to the whole YouTube part of starting something. I think people make the mistake of thinking we're all the same or we're all equal just because we have a platform in common, when it's not true.
Right. I'm just looking into the chat right now. Andy says, I've been stuck on what content I should make. I've made some stuff, but haven't been satisfied with it. I worry that making content about Japan, unless it looks like abroad in Japan, no one will watch. This is the point where worrying.
It's probably the most realistic version of this.
It's worrying. I like to say that you're ruining the event before it happens.
Ooh.
And that's kind of like don't put the brakes on something just because you aren't quite satisfied with it. If you keep just changing the way that you play, you'll never get used to one play long enough to be able to grow and see and get that satisfaction, because the satisfaction isn't going to come quick. If you want quick satisfaction, then you go to Las Vegas. Maybe.
That was the not crude version of what you could say, but yeah.
Right.
That's the PG 13.
Right.
The NARP after dark. No, what I would say is you're saying no before anyone else has had a chance to. That's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. You haven't even given anyone the opportunity to accept or reject you. It's funny, the video that I probably had, actually, there are like 10 videos that I had overwhelming anxiety about that I thought that people were just going to dunk on me for or not understand where I was coming from. Obviously, I think all of these videos were about money, and everybody was good with them. And, they're some of my most successful videos, certainly some of my most profitable videos, but definitely in terms of either views or comments, in terms of support.
Uh-oh. Do you need support right now?
Wrong pipe. I hate when my saliva goes down the wrong pipe.
Oh, man.
Very bad design.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Horrible design flaw.
You gotta take it up with the man upstairs, man.
Gotta take it up with upper management.
Yeah.
It's like we need a recall on that part. Yeah, recall on that part.
Really? That's the reason we need a recall, Roberto?
Fair enough. On that part, on just that part, like it's like that was really a really not great evolutionary choice. It's the one is. is the thing, that's why I worry about with getting old is that I'm going to choke on my own, like I'm going to be alone as an old man, choke on my own spit and die in bed. That's like one of my worst fears.
Well, here's the thing. That's Darwin, right? And its truest form is just, if that's how you croak, then your descendants are going to learn from that and are hopefully going to adapt to that.
We should have phased out this design flaw a long time ago.
All right. Well, I mean,
it's taken too damn long.
We didn't have problems swallowing our drinks, apparently.
It's a design flaw that needs to be fixed.
All right.
Anywho, where was I going before? Oh yeah. All right. So like videos I made that I was nervous about, that I thought where I would be the most misunderstood or taken out of context or told I'm insensitive or out of touch for talking about money or whatever. It turns out the people were very, very happy with, like, the video that I made about my monthly income.
Yeah.
I thought that was the video where people were going to shit on me the most, because it's an amount of money in a month that for some people represents their yearly salary. And I know that because it used to be my yearly salary. And now it's my monthly income, not my take home, put it in the bank, I get to keep it money, which I explained in the video. But the point is, that video, people said to me, even though it doesn't have the most views, it has like 11,000 views, which is still great. People said to me that with that video, they felt out of all the videos that have been made about this, and they've watched all of them. They've watched, Kelly Stamps' video. They've watched this one's video. They watched that. And I love Kelly Stamps' video on this, by the way, no shade. But people have told me they've watched every video about this. They love these videos, but they have criticisms of the videos. But they said my video was the most down to earth, most realistic version of this. It's probably why it doesn't have 1 million views. That they've heard, even for it being such a high income. They said the way I explained it, the way that I walked through the details, the things that I didn't leave out, even though it was like a medium-sized video, it was like a 20-something minute video. They were like, thank you for this video. I understand a lot of things about money in general from your video. I have notes. I have a few questions. People were like thanking me for this video that I thought, honestly, people would say was out of touch and come at me sideways, like cancel me on Twitter for making more money than them. Like, I had that anxiety because that's what the world feels like sometimes, is that, oh, here's somebody more successful than me. How can I freaking shiv him in the bathroom today? How dare somebody who has it better than me exist? Or if they exist, or if that person exists, they better meet every one of my moral standards and checks in the box, or I have to take everything from them.
Yeah, Roberto.
I genuinely fear and feel that kind of thing. And I felt like putting this video out, I'm like, am I going to literally have people making death threats to me because of making this video? I'm not even joking. And yet I got nothing but love from that video. Yeah. I got in my own head so much about the worst case scenario that it didn't occur to me to think about what the best thing that could happen was. And the best thing that could happen would be that somebody watches the video and it impacts them or inspires them in a meaningful way that affects them for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. I was so worried about the worst thing that could happen that I didn't consider the best thing that could happen.
Right.
Thank God I got over it and I uploaded the video.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I've got brand deals off of that video, that didn't get a ton of views. Like, I've already had brands tell me that they saw that video and they loved it, and that got me on their radar.
Think about all of the missed opportunities if you hadn't jumped into not just
Think
that
about
video,
all the missed
but in
opportunities
general.
if I hadn't started my YouTube channel.
Oh man, you wouldn't have met me. I mean,
there's almost no way that we would have met if I hadn't started my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There's no conceivable outcome where we end up meeting if I didn't start my YouTube channel.
Yeah, 100%.
And that would have been that'd be a tragedy and everything like that, because I talk to you like every day.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, who else are we going to complain about the state of the world to? But
right,
a therapist.
I don't like. I mean, that costs. Like, I've done therapy. I do therapy, but when I have to
should
pay
I be
them,
charging?
I have to pay them usually, and I don't usually feel that much better, to be honest.
Yeah. No, well,
sometimes I do. I'm not knocking therapy. I suck.
No. Well, you know why that is, though, Roberto. It's because you have other people to talk to.
I feel
And
like
so you
talking.
probably get a lot of your issues resolved outside
Yeah.
of those sessions, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And I'm really like, I feel like I'm looking for things and I'm looking for validation in those things from a professional that I know can say that they're like, they are equipped to say something with a certain amount of certainty, but it never really contradicts either a conclusion I came to on my own, which is weird,
Mhm.
or something that was said by one of my friends who's closer in either understanding me personally or closer to my circumstances than my therapist, because I have problems that are not common enough. There's almost, I hate to say it, if you're a content creator or YouTuber, there's, even if you get professional help, they can only do so much because it's like our problems are completely unrelatable.
Mhm.
Not just from an income level, but from a career standpoint of what we do, how often we
Right.
do it, and why we cannot turn off social media. We literally can't turn off. It'd be like telling a regular person, turn off electronics.
Mm.
Like, but I need that to do my job. Or it'd be like telling somebody who's a farmer, it's like, well, don't go near anything with hair or fur, like, or whatever. If like it,
Mhm.
like, how do I do my job? Like, it's so I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
like all the good things and almost all the bad things in our life have the same point of origin, which I don't think is relatable to the majority of people.
Right. Um, I do want to take it back to the original topic at
Sure.
hand, to kind of keep diving deeper into that. So this is actually a point directly from my outline.
Ooh.
So something that I noticed is that we create obstacles where none exist in order to maintain control.
Huh.
So instead of trusting that things are going to go the way that they should or go in a positive way, like the way that you want them to, like deep down,
Mm-hmm.
we actually destroy these opportunities and ensure that the path won't open up or that these things won't work because it gives us, in a way, a sense of relief.
Because we can then say it's not our fault.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because that's all we really want to do is be able to say,
Right.
it's not my fault.
Right.
Nothing that could be done. This was fate.
Yeah.
Because then we can abdicate any and all responsibility for an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we have to actually be responsible for our outcomes, then we have to reckon for the fact that the problem is with the word and the belief around moralism and the concept of deserving something. Because the thing is, as long as we deal in the idea of deserving something and that being any way, shape, or form related to just what happened, then accepting responsibility becomes taking the blame. But if you accept that what you deserve means nothing, that there is no moral justice in the universe that determines outcomes, that outcomes are not determined in any way or tied in any way to morality whatsoever, which, again, that's not a satisfying prospect for a lot of people because then that means there's no justice in the universe, right? It's not a satisfying prospect for a lot of people, but humor me. If you entertain the idea that what happens in the absence of any moral equivalency, then it actually, in a lot of ways, becomes a lot more palatable to take responsibility. Because then taking responsibility is not taking blame. If there's not any moral reason why something does or doesn't happen, it's just that it's purely a consequence of every action that came before. Well, then that's scientific. And then you don't have to be emotional about why it happened versus what happened. That makes sense?
Yeah. It does make sense because it's more of a concrete. It's a tangible form of measurement, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the general idea.
Right. Yeah, so I think that, I mean, like if it is in the case of someone who is trying to create content, right? And they are kind of in this self-sabotaging mindset. Then the next steps would be to identify what actions were taken to lead up to those circumstances.
Yes. Primary example would be, okay, I didn't do this in terms of like timing. You would say, okay, if I missed the timing or the best window of timing for something, then what can I do to improve that? And you might say, well, I missed that window because I didn't have all this prep work done, so I wasn't able to move fast enough. So then you start saying, okay, well, what do I do to eliminate the friction in my preparation so that when something happens, I can move as quickly as possible? What would allow me to move as quickly as possible when a news event happens, or whatever? Is it that I need to have some kind of setup to where I'm not wasting an hour getting ready and losing an hour on something? Or was it that I didn't hear about this soon enough? So maybe I need to set Google alerts, or maybe I need to only have news sources on my notifications for all my accounts so that I'm just only getting breaking news as far as notifications. I'm not following other stuff that's meaningless. Like, what can I do to put myself in a better position? Oh, I missed the timing because I spent an hour screwing around a thumbnail. Okay, what if I have templates set up that are serviceable so that when something happens, I know that there's a reasonable template for a thumbnail, and then, if I want to make it fancy afterward, I can get it out and I can change the thumbnail later, but it's serviceable. It's enough to get clicks based on what I've gotten clicks off of before. Like, what if I did that? Like, see what I'm saying? When you start to take responsibility, you start to realize there's all this abundance of options available to address what went wrong last time and never have to suffer the same mistake twice.
Yeah. So removing the blockers.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like those steps, like thinking about once you kind of already have in mind a bigger goal or milestone to hit. In this case would be creating a piece of content or like creating a video for a YouTube channel, is breaking that down into the various steps of what is needed in order to just jump in and start making the video.
Let's just jump into it.
Yeah. Which I've heard Casey Neistat talk about before, in a video, where I think, like, because people were riding on him because of his mistreatment of cameras and like all that stuff, his equipment and whatever. And he just broke it down like, I have one job, and that is to do what I'm doing here and deliver that to you, and that's it. So anything else in between,
I can't be precious
is an
about
obstacle.
any of it. Yeah, right. Being precious about it is
meaningless. So if like I'm gonna miss a shot because I have the lens cap on all the time, the lens cap comes off. So he just never has the lens cap, right?
See, but that's another thing that screws people up, though.
Right.
Imagine if Casey did let people get in his head. Now, people would say, well, then you're being understanding and you're being like treating this stuff and understanding you're in this privileged position of being able to have these things and afford all of this or whatever and not being reckless with it. That's what they want from, but they're projecting their situation and they're moralizing a problem. They're putting a moral lens, pun intended, on this situation with him and camera gear, where it's a logistics problem and you're morally judging the process that allows you to get free content by projecting what you're saying or thinking you would do in that situation when you're not in that situation. And if you didn't do what Casey was doing in that situation, you would in fact be doing a disservice to your audience. So you're asking us to cater to your feeling about this from your circumstances. Like you know what one of our big and the thing is it is getting in people's heads. It is stopping people from doing their best work, because even me, because what happens is people who are not in our situation are projecting their feelings into our reality, where it has no place where that makes sense and where it exists. Think about it. Think about the fact that if you're somebody who's watching Casey Neistat's content and you're saying they're wishing you had camera gear or whatever, it's like you don't have it. And to get it, you would have had to have been doing what Casey was doing. So you're sitting there judging Casey by your situation when he's not living your life of like what someone like you believes to be right. And it's like, you're not Casey. You're not in his circumstances. There's no point of somebody who has like no following sitting there and projecting their moral lens onto someone with resources and a following that has different obligations. If you're not servicing 10 million people, shut the hell up. Like, to be real.
Right.
Like,
well, I think too, there's like a level of like entitlement or selfishness that's like, because like, let's say the example directly like Casey, right? If I wanted to just flat out copy his lifestyle of doing things that way, his process, why do I have to have the same exact equipment as him? You know, like, yeah, okay, I'm not about to get a $1,200 camera and like toss it around like a yo-yo, but maybe I could probably get a $50 camera and beat it up pretty good. You know what I mean? It's like there's levels to this. It's not like you gotta just like jump in there and start abusing your red.
No, but like, the thing is, I'm sure when Casey only had one device, he was precious. When he had no resources, he was more precious. He was more thoughtful, but it meant he wasn't taking creative risk. And Casey got where he is by being in a position to take creative risk, which is why when he had money, he bought more cameras. That's why he did it. When he had more, he did this. I'll give you an example of like something that has held me back before, Romina. You know this, and you know it's why I do this, is what's held me back before is sometimes like me not believing, but me literally knowing that if I like trying to do this thing that I want to do without the right lens to do it, I'm going to produce an inferior, even it's serviceable, so I'll do it. But I was frustrated with not feeling like I had the right tool to do the right job. Even with the audio for this, it's like, remember, I invested money into this because I'm like, my audience deserves the perfect experience, you know? Like they deserve a perfect... I'll give you a primary example. Like right now, have you not noticed that for the last couple of NARPs that my camera quality has been better?
Yeah, a little crisper.
New lens. My last lens was fine. It was fine. I'm like, but I want better quality than that. And my audience deserves the best quality that I can deliver for them. Somebody could judge me and say, gee, I wish I had $600 to throw onto a webcam lens, Roberto. Why don't you just use the $200 webcam that you have there that you got for free? It's like, I would be happy with that. You could spend $600 something else. You could give that $600 to charity. You could give that $600 to me. Like, it's a judgment. It's like, I'm like, but that only is useful in like, that only gives value to one person. Giving my audience the best quality I'm capable of is me doing something that is me being thoughtful toward a lot of people at scale at something that you might not think is important, but what if it's that thing that they are looking forward to? And it's more than one time that they consume content. So, and it's more than one platform. It means also that when I'm on a stream with somebody that they know that there's somebody who's thoughtful about the quality of the content for their platform or for their interview or their podcast. So like it's judging a set of circumstances that has nothing to do with you. But then here's the other part of that. If I let that get in my head, I wouldn't be doing the best thing I could do for my audience, because I'd be doing the best thing to stop being judged by the loudest critics that may not even really be true fans that are just projecting or venting, who wouldn't actually do anything different if they were in my circumstances, because my circumstances lead me to think that the way I do. So just because you're a different person, if I put you in my same circumstances, there's a good likelihood you might react the same way, because we react to circumstances, you know? And so, you know, that I invested in higher quality gear so that I would have a lack of hesitation to do something, because I know it will come out good, and I know it'll be good quality for my audience. I know it'll be the best thing that they can have and that they can consume from me. If I invest in the best tools, it means when I make something, I can make it with confidence and not hold back, because I know my audience will get a good outcome. They'll get a good piece of content that looks sharp, sounds perfect, whatever it is.
Right. And there's I think something that rings true that you just said was something to the effect of doing what's right for your audience, or in a broader sense for your customers, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen YouTubers who have, you know, pretty good visuals, but audio is awful, and they have millions of subscribers. Why? Because it worked for them. You know, it's like it wasn't something that
it didn't hinder their progress.
Right.
So they didn't make it a priority. They didn't get less views, so they didn't decide to make a change.
And it's not something that that I'm saying, oh, you know, sound doesn't matter. I mean, this is just like an example of one specific thing that happens. But then like it could be anything where it's like in Casey's example, like using Casey as an example, you have something that's a really great story, right?
Yep.
So even if his camera did break, he could still continue his vlog with his phone or any other point and shoot camera, and it would still be great, right? So I think that it would still work for his audience, right?
Yes.
So I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind.
They're also, because he's also at a point where what they're coming for is him.
Right.
Like there's a point where the value proposition has changed. You're watching a Casey Neistat video for Casey Neistat. Now, granted, that means something in terms of quality, but Casey Neistat himself represents the value.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think most content creators differentiate between quality and value, but there's a pretty significant distinction.
Right. And I think like for the purposes of like staying on track with the topic, it shouldn't deter you from creating or starting whatever it is that you want to do. If you haven't found what your value is, or if you don't have the best quality out there. I think that there's something to be said for someone who jumps into the deep end without a floaty.
When I started making content, the content I started making is not the stuff that I'm still making now. So like just because you start something doesn't mean that it has to be forever. Even when we say niche down, we're not really saying, oh, do this and only this forever in perpetuity. We're saying that you have to, so like that's like so that's another thing. The fear of niching down or not growing, if you're a content creator, stops people from starting, right? If you want to just express yourself, make 100 videos and don't worry about what happens because you made 100 videos, so that you can get it out of your system, and then you'll find what you like, because inevitably what's going to happen is you're going to want to make what will get you views. But starting out, you only vaguely know that. So you should go through the process and just make videos that you want to make. And and you'll naturally gravitate toward what does well. and then you'll find your niche, or you'll find your voice or your style or whatever it is you need to find your audience. But you should just at least start doing something. It's better and you grow faster if you stick to a lane and you have a plan. Yeah, normally that is the better route if you care about growth. But the thing is, if you don't need to start with growth in mind to start. You need to start with starting in mind. Just do things.
Yeah. I like something else too that you said, which was to get it out of your system. And it's something that I really try to encourage, not just people who follow me, but also anybody who comes up to me asking for advice, or who's having difficulty, is like, I think that there's like this idea that this mountain is so large and I can't possibly climb it. But then once you get to the top, like you get to see this, it's once you're there, like you know that you're there, and you get to see the view, and even if it's not exactly what you wanted it to be or what you thought it was going to be, you've done it, right? You've climbed the mountain. And that's something that, whether, like, if you don't do it now, you're going to want to do it at some point. So it's like, why not do it now? Right. It's like, that feeling.
The time will pass anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That feeling, that desire to do the thing is not going to go away. It's not going to go away if it's something that you really are passionate about.
The next 12 years are going to go by. I might as well get what I want out of them.
Right, exactly. And it's like, or die trying, right? It's like, if you're not
going to die anyway, so you might as well. Like.
Right, exactly. I mean, if you're not going to get the thing, right? Like, let's say that you do want to start a YouTube channel, right? Might as well just start doing it and start making videos and start putting stuff out there, because you're going to want to do it at some point. So you might as well just try it now, even if it fails, even if nobody subscribes, even if nobody watches. Like, it doesn't matter, because like you've done the thing and you've figured out whether you want to continue to do the thing or discard it completely, or maybe it inspires you, or maybe you learn from it and shift to something else.
My main YouTube channel wasn't even my first YouTube channel. I started YouTube in 2006.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I am actually an OG YouTuber. Like,
yeah.
You know, I didn't do it consistently at any point until 2013, though. I was not consistent about I wasn't a YouTube. I was an uploader. I was a creator. I had an account or whatever, but I wasn't using it. Not really. And I started being serious and like having a thought about it in 2013. But the thing is, so I start, I stop, I start, I stop, I start, I stop, I start, I stop. And then I started and then actually followed through. So like, there's something to be said about actually following through and getting, like, not only getting started, but committing. And the thing is, if you can't maintain that commitment, it's okay. You come back to it at some point. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I so much of like just worrying too much about it interferes with actually doing anything.
Right. I think too, and this is something, before we start wrapping things up in like 10 or so minutes, I think it's important to also be grateful for the resources and the things that you do have available, and learning to work with what you have.
Which is also usually more than you think, just because these platforms
right.
were not an opportunity that existed 16 years ago.
Yeah. And like, not even like, let's say, like, just kind of breaking outside of like the YouTube realm, right? Like, let's say that you want to be a runner. It's like, well, like, do you have to go and get $300 shoes to go be a runner? I mean, probably help to not have blisters maybe, but do you need it to start? No. You probably get some cheap running shoes.
$65 Asics.
There you go. Or you could get some hand-me-downs. You could try to, I mean, like there's so many different ways. Exactly.
Thrifting.
And that's not to say that those are the shoes that you're going to have for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Maybe 6 months down the line, you get a promotion or you hustle and you make that extra money that you need in order to get those shoes that you want to get so that you can start running. And maybe you can find a running club, a running group in your town, or like a town over, where you can just join and like be a part of a community and find that support system that's going to help you to get even more of the resources that you need. But it's like outside of that, for the most part, a lot of the things that people will want to start, they're not going to need a lot of things to get started, right?
The only things that have a barrier to entry for the most part anymore, a real barrier to entry, are already extravagant things. We hear people today saying like, I ask everyone, what's the biggest barrier to entrepreneurship? They always keep saying capital. I'm like, for what? Like, what? Like, you have no experience. Why do you need the money to start a restaurant? You have no experience. Why do you need the money to do a tech startup? You can't even code. Like, so what are you, lack of capital? No, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can start almost $100 cost, like $100 cost business right now being an entrepreneur. You can do it through the internet. You can do freelancing on Fiverr and start there and be self-employed. You can start a YouTube channel and start something. You can do e-commerce. You can do print on demand, $0, free open source software. There's so many zero cost businesses. Oh, but I don't really want to do that. It's like, do you want to do the job you're doing now? Like, you can start and do, but you're like, it wasn't about, how much does, like, what's the barrier to doing the business that you've always dreamed of doing in the end of the day, that dream being based on you winning the lottery or some shit? No, like, reasonably speaking, almost anybody could start a business if they live in the Western world today with a smartphone or a laptop. If they have $100 in their pocket, they have the resources, they have the means of production, as it were, legitimately in this case, because you don't need land, you don't need industrial machines, you don't need a textile factory. And those were the things for the means of production in the old world. The means of production today are you need access to the damn internet, and you need a content creation, distribution, and interactivity tool in the form of either a smartphone or a laptop. That is it. I don't care what any of the damn Lenin or Marxist people have to say about it. The means of production are a goddamn smartphone. The end.
Just had to slip that in there.
I had to, because because the thing is, again, it's an excuse. It's an excuse. You can start very modestly, and there are people doing it, and I don't care how many people failed and everything like that. So what? The divorce rate in America is like, 65% and everything like that? Almost less than a 50-50 shot of a good outcome. And then we don't even know how many of those relationships are happy, healthy, loving, stable relationships. So the majority of relationships statistically are doomed. They're almost as bad as a failure rate.
Right. So what does that mean?
Failure rate of having a good relationship is the same failure rate of starting a successful business. So what? You're supposed to be celibate for life? Join a damn monastery then. Monastery then. Go be a missionary.
Right, exactly. That. It's like, I've had a lot of people that have told me like, but that's so hard. Or like, that thing is like, are you going to be happy doing that? Or this or that, like things like that, where I'm just like, who cares? When it gets to that point, when it gets too hard, when it gets, when I'm unhappy, I'll figure it out. I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah. What's the deal? It's so many people just overwhelmingly willing to bow to the fear of what if, instead of the hope of what if. Like, anything is, you can't know. Have some humility to know that you can't know how it will go. So you might as well assume and act as if it'll go well. And if it doesn't, you then deal with it then. But don't just make that a reason not to try. Don't make it a reason not to try. And don't
Right.
convince other people that it's not worth trying because you failed at it. You know what it is? It's not even people don't even have any personal experience, Romina, to project their failure. They're pulling some abstract numbers. Sometimes it's not even true with regard to failure and projecting that onto other people. I tell people the truth about the fact that most people don't succeed on YouTube, but not to discourage them not to try, but to do it with open eyes and to say the reason most of them don't is largely a lot of them quit before they ever gave themselves a chance. And then a lot of them had unrealistic expectations. I was like, well, they didn't also take any time to develop the skills either that would have ever produced the opportunity to be successful at it. Largely, people don't give themselves a fighting chance.
Right. I kind of, all right, I'm going to bring up something slightly controversial, I guess, for
I went for it. You might as well.
I mean, it's definitely not going to be as far as, but I've been reading Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules.
It's a good book.
And I just started it. In the first chapter, he talks about lobsters and a specific type of bird. I just forgot the name of the species, but
now all I want to do is eat seafood.
And he talks about this bird that will just attack anything, right? So like if you're around it and you just like start playing the sound of the birds, like it will just start attacking. It's like kamikazes, like beak first, right?
Whoa. And
then you have that, and then in comparison, like the lobsters and like their mating rituals, like it's very it's not quite as like head first, if you will. And the lobsters have a hard shell, and you would think that with like this armor that they would behave more like the bird, but the birds that are just flesh
fragile
and feathers are literally diving beak first, like kamikaze style, right? So it's like there's this bravery that comes even though the physical does not match it, right?
Yeah, it's punching above its weight class.
And
whereas this thing that's built with an armored tank, this thing that's nigh invincible, ain't acting like that. It's like it's being a little bit more modest than that.
Right. And so he really talks about if you walk in defeated, then you've already lost, right? And I think that's something that really stuck with me in that chapter. And I don't feel like I apply that to, I don't feel like I need to apply that rule to my own life because I already feel like the complete opposite. I'm definitely the bird. So I don't have like that problem. I've never felt
I
defeated.
have had that problem. I make too much, you know me, I'm too risk adverse as it is, and I have very little reason to be at this point. Like, minus past trauma, I can afford to take risk, and yet I refuse.
Right.
I am the lobster.
Well, lobsters are delicious. A little garlic butter. You got that?
Stop making me
now you're all like thinking about surfing.
All I'm
man.
I'm like sitting here thinking about Postmates
steak.
right now. I'm just like Postmates.
Get a nice juicy steak, put some lobster on that. Maybe a side of mac and cheese.
You win again, Postmates.
Oof.
You win again, Postmates. I'm not gonna go down and cook my HelloFresh. Like, you win again, Postmates. Laziness triumphs.
Hey, speaking of that, actually, just kind of going back to the topic here, talking about Postmates. If we use something like Uber or Lyft, we're talking about companies here that started essentially a limousine service, a chauffeur business without a fleet of cars.
Oh, they were told constantly how they would fail.
Right. And on top of that,
I wouldn't do that. Did you just take a cab?
Can you imagine if they had used the same excuse of, oh, well, I need capital, or, oh, I need, 100 cars.
I can't do that. Or
business.
Yeah. Right.
No, instead they found a way. Instead they found, they adapted to the times, right? Which was what you said, phone, internet, Done.
Like, people lie about Gary Vee all the time and say that like he inherited like this multi-million-dollar business from his father when it's like
Well,
they're
he
very
grew that business.
he grew that business and he didn't even get to keep it. They clearly ain't from immigrant families or don't talk to people. Is like you don't inherit jack like until they're dead. Until your parents are dead and his are alive and well, thank God. Like
Right.
you don't inherit jack. Like,
And they know that you're actually working in the business.
yeah, like you don't inherit jack. So like the heck, they might even pass you over to like the next in line, like whatever. Like so like you don't inherit
Yeah,
jack.
exactly. Don't have kids too soon. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't wait until like wait until the folks are dead and then have the kids, because if not, it's going to the grandkids. You know.
They literally will do that sometimes. They skip you over
Yeah,
to
they'll
the
just
next
skip you
generation.
over. They'll be like, well, you have a family, you've got stuff. You obviously got to figure it out.
You're fine. We're giving it to the babies.
Yeah.
Like that. So there's that. But they lie about him all the time. But like, because here's the thing, he actually did have to start scrappy because the thing is, I remember when VaynerMedia was in the offices of Buddy Media, because I remember when Jared Polin years and years ago, maybe in like 2013, 2014, something like that, did an interview with Gary, and they're sitting here in like this office that's like, it looks almost sad. Like it's like, it looks almost sad because like Jared had this wonderful loft for his YouTube content and stuff like that to film in. If you guys are familiar with Jared Polin, even back then, and like Gary's like space for them to do stuff in, it looked like sad. And so, but it's because they were working, doing client services work. They were working out of the offices of Buddy Media. You don't do that. You do not sit there and bum off of your friend and work out of their office, and not even like as even a favor. It's like you're trading work to work out of their office. You're doing stuff for them, like instead of taking money to have office space. You don't do that if you're the heir to a multi-million-dollar liquor empire, like getting checks for that and all this stuff. Like, no, y'all are dumb. Y'all can't even do research. This man like had to start over. He had to start over because you don't sit there and you don't work out of like this very sad office and film and take interviews out of it and do a podcast out of it. You don't do that if you're rich. Like you understand? Like YouTubers who do not have multi-million-dollar don't do that. So like Gary was like clearly like anybody doing 5 minutes of research can like figure this out. And I'm making the point to say he didn't have to start perfect again, even when he started over. You don't, if you're rich like that, you don't sell Steve Ross of the Miami Dolphins 40% of your company. You do not give up equity in your company if you're rich. You do not sell 40% stake in your company if you're rich. Like, understand? Like, he started over. He started over and built something from scratch. And that's, in my mind, that's dope, because he was like, how am I going to do this? I'm going to like trade my skills as a favor to my friend to get office space for me and my brother and my brother's 4 friends who are going to help build the company. Okay, we're getting clients, we're making money, but it's embarrassing. We're losing client work because we are in this really pathetic situation with regard to our office space when we have to take meetings. So I'm going to have to raise capital. Well, because of my previous endeavors, I have this relationship with Steve Ross. I'm going to go and beg him to invest in my company. How much does he want? Damn, I guess I give him 40% of what's left after I split the rest of the business with my brother. Like, he needed his brother, and he needed his brother's formal, traditional savvy to do this. And he wanted to go into business with his brother. It's like, you know what? Dad did his thing. Mom raised us. Sister is doing real estate. You and I need our own thing. Let's go. And so it's like, yeah, but I like both of our names on the thing, but I want to be in charge of everything. It's like his brother and him got into an actual fist fight until Gary gave him like half the company. Like, and said, we're even Steven, we're brothers. It's like, it's VaynerMedia, not Gary Media. And so that's like that's like, so
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't sound as cool if it was Gary Media.
Yeah, it doesn't sound terrible, but it's not the same.
Definitely not cool.
I'm making this point to tell you a story of like, there is like, people feel just because he wasn't fighting for the resources to survive and they're projecting their own situation onto that, or again, the situation of the person worst off that they know, onto a place where it has no meaning. Like it's not relevant to that thing. But you still have to look at his situation and still say that was scrappy and that he found a way to start in the least perfect circumstances. And it's a massively successful story and endeavor today. And what pisses me off is people lie and try to pretend that it's easy. And like, it's like there are plenty of people that have every opportunity and every amount of privilege in the world and don't become successful. This is not one of those situations. His family escaped communism and persecution for just being Jewish, like that. So leaving communist Belarus, Russia, the Soviet Union,
Right.
the Iron Curtain, I don't think had even come down yet. This is the 80s. Like
I
this is
think
bad.
I think that was Vlad's parents from Robin Hood.
Oh yeah,
That was his story too. I think his parents are from there as well.
Exactly. So you have this. You have a lot of people that they literally had to flee for their lives just because, like, you want to project your survival growing up in the United States, being born into freedom where you're not persecuted for like. And yes, there are people who are persecuted, but let's be real. Even as bad as we think it is, or as bad as it actually is here, it's not quite the same thing as growing up in a communist country where you are persecuted literally for being born different. Is not the same thing. Not in the least. Is not the same thing as leaving your house and there being tanks on your block and soldiers at the corner. It is not the same thing as your grandfather literally being arrested and going to jail just for being a Jew. Like, it's not the same. Like, but people today are so thoughtless and spoiled and entitled and will make every excuse for why they can't be why they can't be successful, why they're oppressed, why they have all of this and everything like that. There are people right now in Cuba that have lived through decades of actual like lack of freedom and oppression and lack of humanity and various other things, and have grandparents who went through like actual civil wars. And there are people who've escaped that and lived through that go on to be successful, and we make every excuse being born in America to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
Makes me sad.
Those are some powerful words. But I think that kind of reiterates what I was saying before, is being grateful for what you have access to. If you do have access to that freedom, if you do have access to the internet and to a phone, if you have access to these things, these are all things that can help you to get started on any numerous project that you might want to, even if it's not a YouTube channel, whatever it is, e-commerce, or you just want to learn how to crochet, whatever, I don't know. Like, you
live in the greatest era of affordable, accessible resources and technology that has ever existed. You live in the greatest era in terms of you can't, even if you went back in time and you were a king, you'd die at 40. Now, even if you're a peasant, you would live to be 80, and because you have antibiotics. Like, you have open source tools. You have in the form of any computer you can buy over the counter today is superior to the computer that was used to produce Jurassic Park and the tools that were used to create Star Wars. There are people that can recreate Star Wars on their effing phone right now. We have such technology available to us that Lucasfilm hired a YouTuber to do deep fake technology better than them. Like, with commercial resources, and it wasn't a rich kid. So like, you have if you are within the sound of our voice within this podcast, you have every opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, if you can hear us, then what's your excuse?
I mean, it sounds insensitive to say, but it's like, it's supposed to be encouraging. It's supposed to be, it's like, you know what? Yeah. Like, even if you don't have a perfect life, there is almost no chance in hell, even if you don't have a perfect life, even if you have a bad situation, there's almost no chance in hell that your situation is worse than your grandparents comparatively.
Oh yeah.
There's almost no chance in hell.
Yeah.
And they were successful enough to continue your bloodline. So for you to exist. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I feel really inspired too after having this conversation. I think it kind of like lights a fire in me again to like keep going with my book as well, because I think that's something that is important. Like every time that I've told somebody about the book that I'm working on, they're like, "Oh my God, I need that."
I feel the same. I think there was a book I thought I was going to write for my career, but I need to write the book that tells my story. It'll help my career anyway, but I'm not going to write the YouTube book that everyone told me I should write. Not first. I'm going to write it, but I'm going to just start with the Create Something Awesome book, because I just need to actually express things and inspire people. And my story is enough to do that. And I just haven't had the confidence to believe that my story is a good enough calling card to be a first book. But now, this conversation makes me feel different.
Conversation, don't self-sabotage, man.
Well, there you go.
Don't ruin the party before you get there.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, man. Remember, we're gonna have surf and turf. It'll be a good one.
Night's gonna be a good night. Copyright strike.
Oh, well, yeah, well,
maybe. You start singing.
If you do it a little bit off key, then it's all right. Then we kind of like bypass it.
I don't even think that's true anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Record labels are that messed up. A friend of mine, actually, Warner Brothers lawyer actually called him today.
Because of copyright?
For leaking a script, yeah.
All right. You know what? Maybe we should talk about copyright next week. Because we can talk about that Clubhouse screenshot that I sent the group a couple days ago.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting conversation to be had.
All right. So let's
wrap it up.
All right. Thank you for listening to the Know Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing and inspire you to do everything, all the things. Please make sure you leave us a review on the apps that allow that. Spotify is not currently one of them. Yes, that was shade being thrown. And, of course, tune in next week when our friend Audrey Ember will be returning to the show. And, of course, thank you to our live audience for, essentially putting up with us. This has been your duo of hosts signing off, including Romina with the good hair and the bad mic, and, of course, your dark lord of the interwebs who has a perfect podcast setup, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week. Up.